make it our business. A climate podcast that's about innovators, change makers, and entrepreneurs who are taking actions, creating solutions, and inspiring many. This podcast is supported by US Department of State, created by BBC Media Action, India.
We need all our energy to cool it down, and this episode is worth a megaton of energy as we explore possibilities in solar energy. Today we begin with an extraordinary young voice in climate action, Licypriya Kangujam. And Licypriya just turned, Licypriya, correct me, are you 12 or are you 13?
I am 13 years. I just turned in this year's 2nd of October.
All right. Cool. So at just 13, Licypriya is already a force to be reckoned with, an environmental activist from India who's making waves globally. Often called India's Greta Thunberg, she's not just fighting for her future, but for all of ours. From addressing global leaders to pushing for climate policies at home, Licypriya's journey is nothing short of inspiring. Welcome to Cool It Down, Licypriya.
Yeah, thank you, Sayema, for having me here today. It's my pleasure to be here. And one thing that I would like to correct you is that I'm not India's Greta Thunberg. I'm Licypriya Kangujam. I have my own story, my own identity, and own culture. So I'm not Greta Thunberg of India.
I stand corrected, and I'm very happy and proud that you corrected me. Yes, you are India's very own Licypriya. Licypriya, you've become a powerful voice for climate action at such a young age, urging the world to cool it down. Can you share why this message feels so urgent to you today?
Sure. You see, for me, this message is really important, really urgent, because when looked at today's situation, today's global climate crisis, you can see that it's happening in the reality. This global climate crisis, we're all facing it in the front lines, and we can't just ignore it simply. It's a global climate issue. And millions of children like me are losing their lives, losing their parents and their homes due to climate disasters. And sacrificing the lives of these millions of innocent children for the failures of our leaders is unacceptable at any cost. Because of climate change, because of global warming, a sea level rising is happening. Many environmental issues is happening, such as floods, droughts, heat waves, cyclones, locusts, air pollution, forest fire, etc. at the same time. And many small island nations such as Timor-Leste and Maldives are gonna submerge inside the sea, is submerging inside the sea. So this is what the realities of today's situation, of today's global climate crisis is. And when we talk about cool it down, we gotta change our behavior. Personally, I think, cool it down means to change our behavior, to take urgent, immediate action as soon as possible. And this action should be taken today, right now, ASAP, as soon as possible. Otherwise, it might be too late to cool it down. So that's why I think it's really urgent as a child.
That's so well put, Licypriya. I look at your journey and it's clear that you've inspired people globally and you continue to do it every single day. But I'd love to know what sparked it all for you. I want you to remember that very first moment. How old were you when you realized that, I need to speak up for it. I need to do something about it. How old were you, and was there any particular incident, particular story that just, started the entire journey for you?
Yeah, I do have one. So, as you might know, that I was born in Manipur, right, which is a small, beautiful northeastern state of India bordering Myanmar. And it's full of lush green mountains and alluring atmosphere, full of rich biodiversity hotspots. But sadly, most of the rich biodiversity hotspots has turned into climate hotspots now. In which ways, I grew up in Bhubaneswar, Odisha for my schooling reasons. And you see, when I grew up there, my life was hit by Cyclone Titli in 2018 and Cyclone Fani in 2019. And during those two cyclones, it devastated, it affected my young childhood life a lot. I couldn't eat, I couldn't take my food, I couldn't drink my water or anything by seeing from my own very own two eyes as a child, at a really young age, by seeing all the devastation, by seeing all the destruction happen by that environmental issue. And then later, I moved to Delhi in 2019. And then once again, I faced the high air pollution crisis and the intense heat wave heat wave crisis in Delhi.
Yeah.
So you see, all such incidents that I have faced in my young childhood life turned me into a child climate activist. And you see, climate change problem is not only for me or for you or for someone else. Climate change problem is for like every single person living in this world.
That's right.
And each and every child, living in this country, living in this world, are already the victims of today's climate crisis. So we must take the urgent, immediate climate action now, otherwise it would be too late. And one thing more, in my journey, there have been a lot of challenges came up, and there's a point when I should give up or something like that. But I don't think about it at all.
Yeah.
And that's because you see, it's because of the love and support from the people across the globe. That's what keeps me going on and on, continuously fighting for our planet and to save our future. So that's what keeps me going. That's what brings me hope, that I have to fight till my last breath until I achieve my goal. So that's how my spirit works, because of all the love and support from the people around the globe. And lastly, I am a girl child who believes that every child can lead the change.
Absolutely. Licypriya, if I were to ask you, who is your idol? Who are the people globally who inspire you in your journey? Who are the people you study? Maybe they could be books too. What is it that is where Licypriya wants to, a voice within says, I wish I would be like him or her. Are there idols for Licypriya?
Well, you see, I don't really have one particular in mind, but many of my climate activist friends like Sister Malala, Sister Greta, Vanessa, and a lot of great climate warriors, I have to say, are giving me much more inspiration. But what really caused me to do this, which changed my whole life, is that in July 2018, when I was around 6 years old, I got invited to the United Nations Disaster Conference in Mongolia. And I met a lot of world leaders, great scientists, experts, policymakers, a lot of influencers, and it changed my whole life. I got really inspired by all of them. And then after returning back from the conference, the United Nations Disaster Conference in Mongolia in July 2018, I started my own organization called the Child Movement, or you can call it as Bachpan Andolan in Hindi. So Child Movement, my organization, does a lot of initiatives, movement, action, activities such as massive tree plantation, cleanliness drives, raising awareness, because environmental consciousness is really important to have, around.
That's fantastic. A powerful voice does make a difference. More power to you. Your passion is infectious, it's inspiring, and it's so lovely to hear you. Licypriya Kangujam reminding us that age is no barrier when it comes to making an impact. Her passion and determination show that even the youngest voices can demand change and push us toward a more sustainable world. If her words moved you, remember that the fight against climate change starts with small actions. Every one of us can play a part. Thank you so much, Licypriya, for being with us today.
Of course, no problem. And one last that I want to say is that, as you've mentioned, age doesn't matter to make a difference. And big or small, it doesn't matter. I'm a girl child, once again, that I believe that every child can lead the change. I hope you all take the action as soon as possible, change your behavior, because you see, my generation is already the victims of today's climate crisis. And I don't want my future generations to face the same consequences again because of your inaction and empty false promises. So yeah, thank you very much for having me here.
Today, we have an extraordinary guest joining us, Professor Chetan Solanki, often referred to as the Solar Gandhi and the Solar Man of India. Professor Solanki has committed to an 11-year Energy Swaraj Yatra, traveling and living on a solar-powered bus to spread the message of sustainability and energy independence. What an inspiring way to truly cool it down. We're excited to hear his thoughts on solar energy and how each of us can play a part in creating a sustainable future. Professor Solanki, welcome to Cool It Down.
Thank you so much. Happy to be here.
Professor Solanki, what sparked your passion for solar energy? Was there a particular moment that made you realize solar was the answer to tackling the big challenges, especially climate change?
Well, actually, it's more than solar energy. It is energy that we all have to worry about. And I'm really bothered about the use of energy, of which the solar energy could be a small solution. So when I was traveling around the world in 2018-19, we celebrated 150th birth anniversary of Mahatma Gandhi. And we had a project where we were training a young student to make their own solar lamp and use it for study and do not cause emission, because every emission is also a violence to environment. But when I traveled to, developing countries, America, Africa, Europe, Asia, everywhere, what I saw is that everybody, all people everywhere are just wanting to grow more at the cost of, degrading water quality, air quality, increasing temperature. Everything is fine for everybody, it seems. Mm-hmm. So that is where I realized that before we talk about solar energy, let us talk about energy itself, that how we use energy, how we end up misusing energy, overusing energy, inefficient use of energy.
That's right.
And every use is creating problems. So, I keep saying, people ask me, why you started 11 years yatras. I keep saying, when there is a tiger behind you, you don't need any motivation to run, right?
That's very well said.
And a lot of people don't see that there is a tiger behind them also.
Absolutely. That's very well said. We have to understand the urgency of the situation. We know burning fossil fuels isn't great for the planet, but the science can feel complicated. Could you explain in simple terms how burning fossil fuels leads to climate change? What is the chain reaction from burning coal or gas to the rising temperatures we see today?
Well, it's very simple. I think anybody who has been using car can experience what is greenhouse effect so when we sit in the car and when our windows are, closed and AC is off, whatever happens during that time, during the day particularly, it starts heating up, right? You feel suffocated.
That's right.
That is exactly the greenhouse effect, or that is what the global warming happens. And every time when we burn something and we use energy, and every time when we use coal, petrol, diesel, LPG, CNG, it does exactly the same thing. Each time when we burn these fossil fuels, it results in what is called carbon dioxide. So chemical reaction is very simple. Carbon plus oxygen equal to carbon dioxide and some other greenhouse gases. And these are the greenhouse gases. They have greenhouse effect. They trap the heat. And as a result of that, every action of ours is actually aiding to the global warming and trapping of the heat that is increasing day by day. So most people don't even realize, when I ask them, are you using energy? They say yes. And what are the energy usage you're doing? They will say, electricity, petrol, diesel, and that's it.
Yeah.
Most people don't even realize that brushing teeth is also a dangerous activity. I keep explaining people that.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, let me explain. To brush your teeth, what you need toothpaste, and toothpaste needs to be manufactured.
Yeah.
To manufacture, you need energy, which means carbon emission.
Right.
And you don't buy toothpaste in tube, you buy in a beautiful package, right? So that package is a cardboard and colors are there. So that also needs manufacturing, another energy source.
That's
Then
right.
you have no idea where your toothpaste is manufactured. 500 kilometers away from you or 1,000 kilometers, you have no idea.
Yeah.
So it has to be then transported, again needing energy and carbon emission. Then the shopkeeper is going to keep the toothpaste and going to run the lights and fans. And now we, the modern people, are spoiled people. So we keep the toothpaste in air conditioned malls. So that is another source of energy.
Yeah.
Then you go and buy the toothpaste and you don't go by walking, right? You're going to use the vehicle. And that also going to use energy and carbon emission. Now, this is only the story of toothpaste coming to your home. What about toothbrush? Same process, manufacture, package, transport, store. But you also need water.
Yeah.
And for water, what you need? Pipes. Pipe means iron. You have to mine iron. A lot of energy to melt the iron, right? Then what else? You need motors, pump. So for that, you need magnet and copper wire. That's also a lot of energy. Then you need overhead tank to store water.
Right.
And what does it mean? Cement and concrete, lot of energy. What else you need? You need a wash basin. And wash basin is made out of ceramic. And ceramic is a very high melting temperature, so more than 1500 degrees centigrade. A lot of energy is required. Is that good enough to brush your teeth? No. You also need mirror. You also need mirror to see in the morning your face, beautiful face. That is a quartz material, 850 degrees centigrade melting. Is that good enough to brush your teeth? Again, no. Most likely your bathroom is closed from all the sides. And you have to use bulb. To run the bulb, you need electricity. That comes from coal. So look at the kind of material we use just to do a simple activity in our day-to-day life called brushing our teeth. Imagine what we do throughout the day, 24/7. We use a hell lot of energy. And every time when we use energy, when I wear my clothes, when I use my furniture, chair, everything is responsible for emitting carbon dioxide. So we actually emit a lot of carbon dioxide every single day, every single minute that we are doing it.
You haven't done the right thing, Professor Solanki. The next time I'm going to brush my teeth, I'm going to feel so guilty about it. But that is the truth. That is the truth. We also hear a lot about carbon emissions. But fossil fuels do more harm than just that. That's what we've heard. Could you share some surprising ways our reliance on fossil fuels affects the environment? And what should people know that might not be obvious?
Well, I mean, very, very good question. And this is something it has to be written on every single wall. The very basic facts about using fossil fuels. And people unfortunately don't know and people don't talk about it. So let me tell you that, in India, for example, 73% electricity that we use today still comes from coal. And every time when we use coal for generating electricity and consuming it, the ballpark number is that 1 unit of electricity produced and consumed is equal to 1 kilogram of carbon emission. 1 kilogram, imagine.
My God.
And another fact is once this 1 kilogram of carbon is emitted in the atmosphere, it has an average life of 300 years. 300 years. Can you believe it?
My God.
So what does it mean? It means that when you and I use refrigerator for one day, it consumes 1 unit of electricity. When I take bath with the hot water, one good bath with the hot water is 1 unit of electricity. 1 hour of air conditioning, just 1 hour of air conditioning is 1 unit of electricity, which means 1 kilogram of carbon emission, which means 300 years of global warming. So in a way, you can understand that your one day comfort of using a refrigerator is a discomfort for 300 years.
My God.
That's a disaster. That's a crime that we all commit every single day without realizing that we are all doing it.
Yeah.
Because these facts are not there. It has to be, it has to be written on every single wall everywhere in the world so that people become cautious about every single use of material and every single use of every single unit of energy.
That is so absolutely true because we do not know about all these facts. It is actually so enlightening, and every single act of ours is leading to so much of climate damage. I think if we just get a little conscious about it, we will start making a difference.
Let me give an example. When somebody asked Mahatma Gandhi, Bapu, why people do wrong things. You know what Bapu said? He said, because they do not know the outcome of it. And the moment we know the outcome, we are not going to do it.
Absolutely.
And he has given a beautiful example. He said, the king cobra, the snake, very poisonous. If it is going to bite, we are going to die, right? Everybody knows this.
Yeah.
And as a result of that, when cobra appears in front of you, you have to run.
Exactly.
I think we are all
Yeah.
failing in communicating the right message about
Yeah.
why there is a climate change, how to correct it, who is responsible, when to correct it, what I as an individual can do, because I as an individual only emitting carbon dioxide. Industries are
Exactly.
not doing, governments are not doing. I am doing it because I am using material, I am using products.
Yeah.
So I am responsible and therefore I'm going to be the solution. This is one simple message that has to be widely communicated.
So, Professor Solanki, more people are realizing that we need sustainable energy, thankfully, and solar seems to be leading the way. But beyond just installing solar panels, what exciting opportunities are opening up in the solar space for young people who want to make a difference, for young people who want to be entrepreneurs in this field? Are there new business ideas, technologies, or creative ways to use solar energy that could change the game for climate action?
Well, I mean, before I answer this, let me give another note on using solar energy. Though people call me Solar Man of India and Solar Gandhi, you know what I tell people? The rule number one of using solar energy is do not use solar energy.
Wow.
I did PhD in solar. That is step number one. Of course, we have to use solar energy.
Right.
But I did PhD in solar. I researched and I wrote a lot of books on solar. Even to produce any item in this world, any item, whether it is a bottle or a chair or even solar panel, you need to mine materials. For solar cell, you need mine silicon. You have to make solar cell. You have to make module. I guess, Sayema, you have seen a module. On the module, there is a glass on the top. So you have to manufacture a glass. Then there is aluminum frame.
Yeah.
That you need to manufacture. Then you need iron structure to mount the module. Then you need copper cable to take the electricity out. Then you need inverter to process the electricity. So much of material is required.
Right.
So what I'm saying is, a blind use of solar energy itself is not a solution.
That's right.
Conscious use of solar energy solution. Unfortunately, a lot of people use solar to save money, not to save environment or climate, unfortunately. And how many such people? 99% people are using solar just to save money. So when you want to save money, your approach is different.
Yeah.
When you want to save environment, your approach has to be different.
Absolutely.
When you want to save money, you have to generate more, maximize your generation. When you want to save environment, you have to minimize your consumption.
Right.
And nobody is following that approach. So let us be cautious that solar is not a magic wand that will solve the problem. If you are not going to use properly, solar can itself be some problem in later future. And in Hindi, we have beautiful saying, Sayema, 900 चूहे खा के बिल्ली हज को चली.
बिल्ली हज को चली. Right.
So घर में 4 AC लगाना और चारों को सोलर पावर करना is ठीक वैसा ही काम है. 900 चूहे खा के बिल्ली हज को चली. So cautious, be cautious. Every use of energy, whether it is solar or non-solar, affects the environment. Solar affects much smaller way than the coal, but it does. So therefore, I have given this formula, Sayema, it is called AMG formula, and the whole world should follow this, AMG.
Okay.
A is avoid the use of energy as much as possible, even if it is solar energy. Avoid what is avoidable. So at my home, there is no refrigerator, there is no geyser, there is no air conditioner. I don't iron clothes also. It is not because that I cannot afford. I am a professor of IIT Bombay, I can afford, but nature cannot afford. Because in nature, everything is finite and everything is fixed.
Wow.
You can't increase the size of the planet, right? We can increase the technology and economy and science and technology, but you can't increase the size of the planet.
That's right.
You can't increase the amount of water on the planet, amount of air on the planet, amount of minerals on the planet. Everything is fixed and finite. So the first and foremost fundamental boundary conditions of living sustainably on this planet is limiting consumption. And unfortunately, world doesn't follow this. It has to be followed in every single day, every single act,
Yes.
every single country,
Yeah.
every single region. Once you follow this, limiting consumption, there AMG. A is avoid what is avoidable. Aim is minimize it using energy efficient appliances.
Right.
So for example, when you use LED, your electricity needs will go down by half.
Yes.
When you use BLDC fan, your electricity needs go down by half. So use it efficiently, so you need less energy.
That's right.
So you avoid 1/3 energy, minimize another 1/3 energy. What is remaining is only 1/3. We should generate only 1/3 energy from solar.
That's
That is
G.
the most sustainable. That is G, generate. because we all need energy. We can't survive. We need energy for cooking, traveling, manufacturing, clothes, irrigation, everything. So opportunities are there everywhere. And the beauty of solar energy is that you can generate it anywhere and everywhere you want. You can generate on your rooftop, on your field, in your city, in your village, wherever you want. Which means if you generate solar with a more distributed manner, there is a 10 times more opportunity to create jobs, to become entrepreneur, to solve the local energy problem, provide solution to the small shops. All kind of opportunities exist, and solar energy, for that matter, is not just energy solution. I keep telling, solar energy is solution to job creation, solar energy is solution to local economy strengthening, solar energy is solution to rural economy, women empowerment, and energy independence, reducing carbon emission, reducing global warming. All these problems can be solved if we use solar energy properly. And I keep adding, including reducing the stress and violence in the world. It will happen if we actually go to the more natural way of generating and consuming energy using solar. So solar is ultimate solution for everything that we do on this planet.
Wow, I hear you, Professor Solanki. I think it all has to begin with the change of intent. First, having the right intent of using the available energy in the most efficient way, only where it's necessary, and then the change of perspective. Whenever we are thinking of energy, we need to go towards solar. Professor Solanki has put it as lucidly as it can be for either the budding entrepreneurs or for us as individuals. Thank you so much, Professor
I can summarize
Solanki.
in another way that
Please.
the whole problem the world is facing right now, the degradation of air, water, soil, global warming, climate change, violence, all this is because the root cause of all this problem is wrong use of energy, the carbon-based energy.
Yes.
And the solution lies in using the right energy, the solar energy, but in the right way, that is AMG way, and at the right time. Right now, we don't have time. Climate change is happening. Global warming is increasing like anything. It has to be done at the right time. We don't have 50 years. We don't have 20 years to adopt solar energy. We have to do it. And when we follow this approach, it becomes energy Swaraj, or what I call is energy independence. And right now, based on fossil fuel, everybody is dependent on others. For example, India spends 17 lakh crore rupees every single year to import energy. So we are dependent on other countries. And as long as we are dependent, no country can be a strong or powerful country. So we have to move towards energy independence, or energy Swaraj, or energy Atmanirbharta. And a country can be independent when its citizens are moving towards energy independence. And beauty of solar energy is that it allows all of us to be self-sufficient, self-reliant, and independent in our production and consumption of energy. And energy does not mean electricity. It also means food. It also means clothes. It also means my toothpaste, everything. If we can localize and limit and localize, that is ultimate solution. And that's why I believe Energy Swaraj, or Energy Swaraj Foundation, which is the organization under which I'm doing my 11 years yatra and trying to create a public movement in the world, is designed so that everybody who is a part of the problem can also be the part of the solution. And that is what the Energy Swaraj will be, the solution for solving every problem that we are facing in the world.
And I'm sure today every single person who's tuned in has joined your yatra, and many more will follow. The dedication and passion you bring to the solar movement are truly energizing. To everybody out there, remember that change starts with small steps, and solar energy is one way we can each play a part in cooling it down.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Professor Solanki, for speaking to us, for inspiring us, and for walking the talk.
Thank you so much. And I have left my home for 11 years. I'm a professor at IIT Bombay. I'm a married person. I have 2 daughters. But because the climate change is such a serious problem that we can't try to solve it in the sidelines. We have to make it the main action of our life. And therefore, I placed that for 11 years, I was not going to go home. And that is where I started living in a bus. And I'm almost completing 4 years. So I hope, as you said rightly, everybody must join in this action for the climate correction, so that we can make a better and beautiful world for ourselves and our future generations.
For all the sacrifices that you've been doing, that there is a reason why you called the Solar Gandhi of India. Thank you so much for inspiring us all the way. Thank you.
Thank you.
all know how crucial renewable energy is for our future, and there is no better person to shed light on this than our guest, Simarpreet Singh. Simarpreet is a leading practitioner in the solar industry, committed to driving change in how we power our world. He's been a champion of solar energy in India, and we're excited to explore his journey, insights, and hopes for a greener tomorrow. Simarpreet, every visionary has that moment when things click. Can you tell us about the time when you realized solar energy was more than just a business for you? Was there a moment or experience that made you see it as your purpose to help shape India's future?
I think there were two major inspirations that happened for me personally. One was my meeting with Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam.
Okay.
We are talking about 2011, 2010-11, when solar energy was not even the prime source of energy, when there were no main solar policies also in India. And I remember, meeting Dr. Kalam, and, my backstory goes that I had no plans to stay in India. In fact,
Wow.
I was like any other Punjabi. I was all scheduled to go to Canada and live my life there. But, I met Dr. Kalam, and, he visited our engineering college. And I was sort of selected, among all the students to ask him a question. And I remember, I randomly asked him a question about what is the future of India. That is 16th November 2011, something. It was November 2011. And I remember asking him what is the future of India. And if you actually, why I'm getting the backstory of, I had nothing to do with the India story, because I was not to stay in India only, right?
Right.
I was all set to go to Canada and, live my life there. But I just asked him what is the future of India. And I think his answer changed me. He replied that the future of India has to be happy. The future of India has to be sustainable. I don't think that is the first time anyone said the word sustainable, because back in the day, in 2011, 10, in engineering also, sustainability and solar energy was not even taught. Right. So we didn't even know what sustainability was.
Absolutely.
So he was the one who said this, the future of India has to be happy. The future of India has to be sustainable. The future of India is when every person has clean energy and clean drinking water. And the future of India is when every girl child feels happy, safe, and inclusive. So I think this is what he said.
Wow.
And what I could understand, as a 21-year-old, you are disconnected from reality. You don't know what, kind of woman inequality is there across the country, right? Disparity. You don't know. When Dr. Kalam says that when every girl child feels happy, safe, and inclusive, when he talks about clean energy, clean drinking water, sustainability, I come from a privilege where, we had 3 times food on the table, right? That's a privilege. Today, people don't talk about this privilege, and they talk about all kinds of struggle. But I feel anyone which has a shelter or a roof to sleep and 3 times meal is a big privilege in India. And I feel, I was disconnected. And
Absolutely.
that was one of the biggest inspiration that happened for me. And I think that was sort of, your tipping point, that I started to read more about sustainability, more about what is clean energy. I didn't even, Samej, I didn't even know what clean energy is. And when I sort of deep dived into it, and then you got to know that, among the 20 most polluted cities in India, 60 in the world, 16 came from India.
Yeah.
Almost 30 crore people didn't have access to electricity. 70 crore people didn't have, clean drinking water. So I think that was sort of, the odd domino effect started to happen. And so that was one of the biggest inspiration was Dr. Kalam. And when 2019 Forbes 30 Under 30 Asia happened, I dedicated the award to him in Hong Kong. So I think I dedicated, in fact, if you come to our headquarters, the 4th floor of our headquarters is dedicated to Dr. Kalam. It is known as Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam floor. So I think that was one of the biggest inspiration.
That is so interesting, and it is so inspiring, especially when you mentioned that, you hadn't even heard some words. Somebody's word, somebody's speech, somebody's talk can inspire you to this extent. This is very interesting. Simarpreet, your work shows how solar energy can give people independence. In a world where climate change feels overwhelming, how can people take back control by using renewable energy like solar? And how does this help build a bigger story of resilience and responsibility?
So you know, I'll again come to the story of 2011. So, once you get connected to reality, that is where, you start building an organization. And I always feel that, when you're building something, it has to have an intersection of social impact. And I think because we were so disconnected from reality, we didn't have a understanding that what energy independence is. I give you an example. Today when we talk about per capita energy consumption, right? India has among the lowest electricity consumption in the world, among the lowest.
Yeah.
It is about 1200 kilowatt hour, whereas US and other developed countries are at 13,000 kilowatt hour. So Samaji, we are in such a developed, we talk about
Okay.
5G and all these kind of things. Just imagine that people don't have access to electricity. So I think that is where the whole idea came, that how can we sort of contribute in building a sustainable India?
Yeah.
How can we contribute and partner with buildings, with large industries for the decarbonization goals? And mind you, we ventured into solar when terms like ESG, SDG, decarbonization didn't even exist. India didn't have its net zero goals, right? This is almost 14, 15 years back.
Oh,
And today
yes.
now to build among the top 3 solar EPC companies in India. So, it is a great journey when we look back, but, I want to share another story, very interesting, if the time allows.
Please. Oh, yes.
There was one was Dr. Kalam. The other tipping point, what happened? I remember it was 2014. And, we were building a project in Andhra Pradesh. It was a very small village known as Anantapur, and we were building a project there. And I still remember, when you build these large solar projects, and when you enter, these are like acres of land, right? 100, 200 acres of land. So when you enter the project site, there's a security gate and you have to enter, do the gate pass and things like that. So while I was entering, I still remember there were, a lot of the local labor also, the local contractors also work, right, for the project. So I remember, our car was, just at the gate pass, and the gate pass was being made. And I was looking outside, and there were, technicians and young boys from the region going, also making the gate pass and, working for their daily wages in the project. And I remember I didn't understand any Telugu, right? But, I remember there was two boys, must be about 20, 19, 20-year-olds talking. And I didn't understand what they were talking, but, you sometimes is a different language, but you get the gist of it. And I remember, the younger one asking the elder one ki ye, ishara karke ki what will happen in this project? Ye kya kar rahe hain? And I remember very distinctly, it's almost 10 years now, the elder brother or what his friend or whatever he was, he commented that isse ghar pe bijli aayegi.
Oh.
So I think instances like these really motivate us कि मतलब जब आप सुन रहे हो कि वो कहता है कि घर पे बिजली आएगी. So I think these are the things that you further motivate you to sort of build the energy infrastructure, the sustainable infrastructure for the country. And I think this is what sort of motivates, and that is what we're doing on a day-to-day basis.
Okay. So, Simarpreet, as someone recognized by Forbes and as a TEDx speaker, you have inspired many young entrepreneurs. What 3 tips would you give to someone starting out in clean energy? How can they build a business and make a real impact in helping the planet? 3 tips.
So I think my first tip would be whatever idea that you have, it's very important to execute it. So I feel execution is very, very important. All these titles, all these awards and rewards are a byproduct of your execution. So sometimes I feel when we started off, we didn't have, startups and everything was not very fancy back in 2011, 12, right? Today, there is more access to information. Youngsters at 21, 22 are much more aware.
That's right.
They're more confident. They are more connected, and they have more information also. So I think my first advice is whatever idea you have, and if you feel that there might solve a problem for a large amount of people, please execute it. It does not matter whether it is right or wrong. Just execution is the most important advice. My first advice would be execution.
Okay.
My second stems out from my first advice is perfection does not exist. And I think this is something that I, as an entrepreneur, building Hatek, learned very later on my life. And because, with doing different things now, as as a speaker, also as a podcaster, as different avatars, you try to understand that execution is important, but at the same time, perfection, you will not ensure that perfection will happen.
Right.
So because perfection does not exist. So a lot of people, they don't do the second try because they feel that it is not perfected. That is where the loop is very, very dangerous.
Very
ये
interesting.
loop को ही तोड़ना है. Or entrepreneurs को or professionals को, they have to come out of that. So first is execution, and second, having that understanding that perfection does not exist. We have to keep doing it, and as we grow and as the conviction in our idea and passion, obsession, whatever we might call, वो होता रहेगा, तो आपका perfection अपने आप आता रहेगा, right?
Very
You will
well
keep
said.
evolving.
Very well
So
said.
that's second. And I think my third is, it comes from a very famous Sikhism saying, which says that man niva mat uchi, which actually fundamentally means that humility is very, very important, right?
Beautiful.
And I feel that, today, building a large organization, having people, everything, sometimes, and it has happened with me, you sometimes get carried away with all the, limelight
Yeah.
and, people and everything.
Yeah.
But I think sooner or later, you basically realize that humility is the bind, is that, that basically sustains success for over a period of time. So I feel humility is that glue that ensures your success is large over a period of time, and you're able to sustain much more longer. And it's not just a 5-year, 6-year-old journey we are building and suddenly you've vanished. And we've had so many examples in the last decade, or even more than that, professionals, entrepreneurs thinking too highly about themselves, and they've perished completely because there's no bigger thing than humility. So I think 3 things.
That's so beautifully said.
Execution, perfection does not exist, and whatever you're doing, do it with humility.
Lovely. Beyond business, cooling it down can start with small daily challenges and changes. Are there any habits or routines, Simarpreet, you follow that our listener could adopt to reduce their carbon footprint? I can do it. What are those simple steps that we all can take to help cool it down in our everyday lives?
I really love the word "cool it down" when I got to know that "Cool It Down" is the series, the podcast series. It's a fabulous name. So I think सबसे पहले तो it's very important, and I've always been a firm believer to do things that you really love. That's very, very important. Whether it is daily habits or tips and everything. Firstly, it's very important. Are you really enjoying what you're doing? So I think before talking about tips and routine, it's very important what I feel that we really enjoy what we do. Now, enjoy, a lot of young generation might think of enjoyment as, आज मजा नहीं आया, काम पे छोड़ दो.
Yeah.
But that is not enjoyment. That is not that. That is you just exiting out of that particular situation. What I mean by really enjoying is something that what you do, right? As a RJ, as what you do, you really love. मैंने एक example देता हूँ हमेशा. As an engineer, I give an example that life is a sine wave, right? So sine wave basically operates like it's ऊपर नीचे जाता है. That's a sine wave. Now, I always ask professionals and all young people across that when the wave will go down, right? When you are the lowest, and it will happen. It will not. It is a law of physics. It will happen. आज नहीं होगा तो कल होगा. पहिया आज ऊपर है तो नीचे जाएगा, right? जब वो नीचे जा रहे हो, when the wave is down, will you continue to do what you're doing today? That is the litmus test of enjoyment. That is the litmus test of doing what you're doing. So I feel, for me, when you talk about beyond business, cool it down की जब आप बात करते हो, I really feel for me that enjoyment is very important. So I think for one of the things that I do is really education, right? For me, going and addressing, let's say, 1,000 people is liberating for me, right? I feel that is a purpose. उसके लिए तो हम आए हैं, right? If we are not able to pass on the information to the next generation and जो हमने सीखा है to the next people, what is our purpose?
Absolutely. How lovely and how inspiring to have this conversation with you, Simarpreet. A lot of takeaways there, and I am sure if each one of us vow to do something for our planet, eventually we will be very soon able to cool it down. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much.
As we wrap up this insightful conversation with Professor Chetan Solanki and Simarpreet Singh on Cool It Down, take a moment to reflect on how your individual actions or entrepreneurial ventures can contribute to a sustainable world. Whether it's adopting solar solutions or championing green innovations, every step matters. What will your next action be toward creating a cleaner, greener future? Think about that. So that's it for now, but we know we need more ideas, more guidance, more experts and more practitioners to tell us how to cool it down. Don't worry, we are at it. Lots coming your way in our next episodes of Cool It Down. Stick around.
Cool it down. Let's make it our business.